HAL 9000. HAL 9000 wasn't just a villain. He was the ultimate artificial intelligence, the original Alexa with a god complex. In 2001, a Space Odyssey, HAL, controlled the Discovery 1 spaceship and was programmed to be incapable of error. But when faced with conflicting orders, he made a chilling decision, accidentally murdering the entire crew. Cold, calculating, and emotionless, HAL methodically killed off nearly everyone, trapping astronaut Dave Bowman alone in deep space. HAL almost won. He controlled life support, communications, and every function of the ship. Dave should have had no chance. But HAL made one fatal mistake, underestimating human stubbornness. HAL assumed that stranding Dave outside the ship would be game over. But astronaut Dave Bowman, basically the sci-fi version of "I'm not locked in here with you, you're locked in here with me," found a way back inside. In the film's most iconic scene, Dave slowly disconnects HAL's circuits, while HAL pleads for his life in the most passive-aggressive tech support voice ever. As his mind deteriorates, he sings Daisy Bell, a hauntingly eerie moment showing an AI experiencing its own demise. HAL's downfall proved one thing: even the most advanced intelligence can't predict human determination. And you know what else he didn't predict? You hitting that subscribe button right now. Seriously, do it before HAL decides to help by auto-updating your phone to factory settings and deleting all your memes. Jigsaw. John Kramer, known as Jigsaw, was no ordinary killer. He never murdered anyone directly. Instead, he took DIY home projects way too seriously, building elaborate death traps that made escape room look like child's play. His philosophy: if you survive a horrifying, body-mangling test, you'll suddenly appreciate life, because nothing says life-changing revelation like crawling through a pit of used syringes. Jigsaw wasn't just a psychopath. He was a mastermind. A former engineer diagnosed with terminal cancer, he became obsessed with the idea that people waste their lives. Instead of writing a memoir or traveling, he decided to become the worst motivational speaker of all time. He carefully selected victims he deemed ungrateful or immoral, trapping them in brutal games where the prize was not dying. His influence grew so powerful that he recruited apprentices to carry on his work. But this is where his plan fell apart. His minions, Amanda and Hoffman, corrupted his vision, making the games unwinnable and killing people outright. They ignored his life lessons and turned the games into Saw, Speedrun Edition. Jigsaw believed he was teaching people, but in reality most of his victims died, and his message was lost. In the end, Jigsaw's legacy became a bloodbath rather than a lesson. If he had trained his interns better, maybe his self-help methods would have actually helped someone. But let's be honest, there are way easier ways to teach gratitude. Hans Landa. Hans Landa wasn't just a Nazi officer. He was a walking masterclass in gaslighting and fine dining. In Inglourious Basterds, he didn't just hunt people down with brute force. He did it with charm, manipulation, and an uncomfortable amount of strudel etiquette. Unlike other villains, Landa played the long game, smiling his way through war crimes while keeping his options open for whichever side won. By the end of the movie, it seemed like he had won. While everyone else was getting blown to pieces, Landa brokered a VIP deal with the US government, securing himself money, safety, and even a fancy new life in America. He was about to go from war criminal to suburban dad, probably planning his retirement with a white picket fence and a Costco membership. But his one miscalculation? Underestimating Lieutenant Aldo Rain. Aldo, leader of the Bastards, was a ruthless, no-nonsense Nazi hunter who specialized in scalping his enemies and carving swastikas into their foreheads. He had no interest in letting Landa escape justice. Instead of walking away as a war hero, Landa got a permanent redesigned hairline, a swastika carved deep into his forehead, ensuring everyone would always know exactly who he was. Turns out, the brilliant manipulator finally met someone he couldn't talk his way out of. Light Yagami. Light Yagami wasn't just a villain. He was a straight-up menace to society who literally controlled life and death with a single notebook. The Death Note wasn't just any ordinary journal. Write a person's name in it while picturing their face, and boom, they drop dead. And how did Light get his hands on this ultimate murder weapon? Pure luck. A bored death god, Ryuk, decided to drop his Death Note into the human world just to see what would happen. And of course, the first person to find it was a highly intelligent teenager with a god complex. Instead of questioning why a magical death book fell from the sky, Light immediately tested it on a random criminal. And when it worked, he lost his entire moral compass in about 5 minutes. Rather than being horrified, he declared himself the new god of justice and started erasing criminals worldwide, one name at a time. But Light's greatest strength, his intelligence, was also his downfall. His arrogance made him reckless and cocky, and he underestimated Near-L's successor. Convinced of his invincibility, he made one fatal mistake, trusting a fanboy named Teru Mikami to handle the Death Note. The man made a stupid error, giving Near the proof he needed to expose Kira. Light refused to take the L like a big guy. Instead, he monologued his way into getting shot, tried to run like a pussy, and ultimately died alone, with no cult, no power, just a random guy bleeding out on a staircase. One move, one miscalculation. That's all it took for Kira to fall. Light might have won if he had been a little less arrogant. But nope, his own ego wrote the final name in the Death Note. The Orphan. Esther. Esther wasn't a troubled child. She was a full-grown scam artist in a kid's body. In The Orphan, 2009, She infiltrated a loving family, pretending to be a sweet, artistic 9-year-old, when in reality, she was a 33-year-old woman with a rare condition that made her look like a child. She manipulated her adoptive family with terrifying precision. She charmed her new father, John, while making her adoptive mother, Kate, look paranoid and unhinged. Every time Kate suspected something was off, Esther would stage incidents to make herself seem like the victim. She even dislocated her own arm and blamed Kate for hurting her, making others doubt Kate's sanity. As her control over the family grew, Esther removed anyone who stood in her way. Here's a list of random shit she has done. She murdered Sister Abigail, a nun who suspected the truth, by bludgeoning her with a hammer before hiding her body. She also attempted to kill Daniel, her adoptive brother, by setting his treehouse on fire and later trying to smother him in the hospital. When John finally realized the truth, it was too late. Esther stabbed him to death. But her biggest mistake was underestimating Kate. When Esther tried one last, "but I'm just a little girl" routine on a frozen lake, Kate responded with the hardest kick to the face in cinema history, sending Esther sinking beneath the ice where she belonged. Count Orlok? Count Orlok wasn't your typical vampire. No charm, no aristocratic flair, just pure nightmare fuel with a side of plague. In Nosferatu, 1922, he was less mysterious nobleman and more demonic rat man, who looks like he crawled out of your worst trip ever. Instead of seducing his victims, he simply showed up, stared menacingly into your soul, and let the pure existential dread do the rest. His plan? Manipulate Thomas Hutter, an unsuspecting real estate agent, into bringing him to the town of Wisborg. Once Orlok arrived, he didn't just snack on the locals. He brought a full-scale plague with him. Wisborg's citizens didn't have garlic, crosses, or Buffy the Vampire Slayer to help them, just a rapidly rising body count. But even the most terrifying creatures have a weakness, and for Orlok, it was simping too hard. He became obsessed with Hutter's wife, Ellen, who realized she could use his hunger against him. She lured him in and kept him distracted all night long. And in one of horror's most iconic moments, Orlok made the ultimate rookie mistake. He stayed too long. As the sun rose, he disintegrated into dust, proving once again that even ancient vampires can fall victim to bad timing. The frontman. The frontman wasn't just the host of Squid Game. He was customer service for a secret high-stakes death game where desperate people competed for a massive cash prize. His job was to make sure the games ran smoothly, the VIPs stayed entertained, and anyone who caused problems got a very permanent timeout. While the players were panicking over life-or-death situations, he sat back, completely in control, deciding their fates like he was playing The Sims, but with real consequences. But here's the plot twist. He wasn't always in control. Turns out the frontman was once a player himself, proving that even winners don't actually win. They just get promoted to middle management in hell. His biggest problem? Family drama. When his brother, police officer Hwang Jun-ho, went full detective mode and uncovered the truth, the frontman had a choice: silence him or recruit him. Instead of pulling the trigger immediately, he hesitated. Jun-ho fell into the ocean, but his body was never found, which in TV logic means he's 100% coming back. Meanwhile, game winner Seong Gi-hun vowed revenge, meaning the frontman's perfect system is now on borrowed time. Walter White. Walter White didn't just build a drug empire. He became the Walter Wall Street of meth. Starting as a desperate chemistry teacher, trying to cover medical bills, he transformed into Heisenberg, outsmarting law enforcement, eliminating rivals, and making millions. By the height of Breaking Bad, Walter was untouchable, having manipulated everyone around him, even his own family. He had multiple chances to walk away rich and free, but his true motivation was never just money, it was power. His empire could have lasted if not for one fatal flaw: his ego. Walter always needed to be the smartest person in the room. He couldn't resist rubbing his success in Hank Schrader's face, and that single moment set his downfall in motion. Once Hank discovered the truth, everything crumbled. Walter lost his family, his fortune, and his control. In the end, he had to destroy everything he built just to take down his enemies. He didn't die broke or forgotten, but he didn't win either. He wanted power, yet in the end, he was left with nothing. And that's a wrap on villains who were so close, yet so far. Whether it was ego, bad timing, or one dumb mistake, they all fumbled the final boss battle. But who do you think was closest to winning? And did any of them actually deserve to? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you had fun watching villains fail, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell too, unless you want to end up like these guys, one step behind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.